Alright, in this tutorial I will be teaching you how to install Arch Linux, and if you think Arch is hard to install, you have never tried Gen 2, I suggest you don't try Gen 2 unless you actually have a good reason to. Now anyways, in this tutorial I will be covering how to partition disks, how to change root, install stuff, etc, etc. So basically, I'll be skipping all of these steps because who cares about them? I'll be teaching you what actually matters. You can go through this on your own. To partition your disk, I'll be doing cf disk, and there we go. Now what we need is a boot partition, a swap partition, although this is optional, and you can set up a swap file or a new swap partition later on, so you can choose. For the swap partition, I'll be putting 4 gigabytes. Obviously, you can change this to fit your own needs. And now for the root partition, just press enter so it can get the remaining amount of storage. And for the boot partition, we need to set it to EFI system. For swap, we need to put it as Linux swap. And for the root partition, we need to set it as Linux root x86-64. Now, we need to write it, type yes, and exit. We can check if it was successful by listing the blocks. And we can type in the command lsblk or listblock to check the devices. And as you can see, we have a 1 gig boot partition, which is SD1. We have a 4 gig swap partition, which is SA2, and we have a root partition, which is 15 gigabytes, which is SA3. And now all we have to do is just partition make the file systems for the partitions. You need to set the boot partition to FAT32 because if you don't, there's a good chance it won't work on most motherboards. So make sure you do that, and we can do that by typing in makefs or mkfs or makefilesystem dot vfat-f32. Now make sure that you put the actual device or block device that corresponds to your boot partition. For me, it's SD1. For you, installing Arch on like physical hardware, like real hardware, not a virtual machine, it could be NVMe 0N1, P1, and etc. Click that, enter. Now for the root partition, I'm going to be using ext4, although you can choose BetterFS and XFS. I don't know if that exists on Arch, but choose whatever file system you want. For me, I'm going to be using ext4, and we're going to be typing in our root partition. For me, it's SDA3. Boom. Now we need to enable the swap partition, so we can do that with make swap /dev/sa2. Boom. Now we can do swap on /dev/sa2 to activate the swap. And once you configure fstab, I will be going over that later. You don't need to type in swap on, so. And also now we have to mount the partitions. To mount, we're going to be using mount /dev, our root partition. For me, it's SA3. We're going to make a mount point to /mount. Now we need to mount the boot partition. This is my boot partition, which is SD1, and we are going to mount it to /mount or mnt/boot. There we go. Make sure you make a directory because the directory does not exist when you are installing Arch. This is the part where we actually install Linux, and yep, it's pretty simple. As you can see, we're almost done the installation, as you can see from the slide bar here. When you're installing Arch, since I'm in a virtual machine, I will not be installing firm or microcode. If you are installing Arch Linux on like let's say like a laptop and not in a virtual machine or like a desktop, I recommend that you download the microcode corresponding to your CPU. If I were to install microcode on my actual desktop, which I am recording on right now, it would be Intel-U code because I have an Intel CPU. So you may want to install that, and also make sure that you install Network Manager, so you don't have to go back into your Arch installation on the live media to fix not having Wi-Fi when you are rebooting into your Arch installation. So make sure you install this package and enable it. I will be showing you how to do that. You may want to get ManDB to have access to man pages if you are uncertain about a certain command, like for example ls. I don't know if it, yep, so you can see this. This is the man page for ls. We have all these options. I'll be quitting. To install packages to our root partition, outside of our root partition, we have set the mount point, which is /mnt. Now we're going to put /mnt, so we're going to be using packstrap-k/mnt. We need base, Linux, and Linux-firmware. If I can even type. Now, Network Manager for Wi-Fi. This Network Manager also works regardless of any init system. If you need to know that, I'm going to be also installing FastFetch because, you know, you really aren't an Arch user until you just tell everyone that you use Arch, by the way. And I will also be putting EFI boot mgr and grub for the bootloader. In this tutorial, I will be using grub as the bootloader, and I will not be covering how to use systemd boot because I don't feel like doing so. Now just press enter. Once your installation finishes, we have pretty much installed Arch Linux. And now, if you reboot your system, right now, you will find out that, hey, wait a minute, I can't boot into Arch Linux. What? Now, this happens because, first of all, we haven't set up the bootloader yet, and your system, even with the bootloader installed, will not know which partitions to use and where to mount them to actually access your system. So to tell your system what block devices or partitions to use and mount where so you can access your system, make sure you generate an fstab file. To do that, all we have to do is just type in this command, which is gen fstab or fstab -u/mount, and append that to /mount/etc/fstab. Instead of interacting with the root partition from outside the root partition using /mount, aka the mount point, we will be going into the root partition. So we will be interacting with the root partition. So anything you do inside of the root partition once you chroot, you are literally interacting with your Arch system that you have installed. So now all we have to do is arch-chroot-s/mount. Here we go. Now I will be installing Nano because you will see up ahead, and there we go. You may want to set your time zone. I will be doing this. For me, since I'm in Canada, I will be doing this. Zone info. Now, since I live in Canada, I will be putting Canada for area and location. This is like your state or province. Since I live in Saskatchewan, I will be putting Saskatchewan. There we go. And we can also run this. There we go. That's pretty much it. And now you can also generate some locales. Now, to set what locales to actually generate, make sure you go into the file by typing in this command if you're using Nano, and just press enter. And since I'm in Canada, I will be doing ENCA for Canadian English. And here we are. So you can see ENCA .utf-8. Make sure you don't select any locales with numbers like this unless you actually need to. Make sure you just stick to locales like this. Make sure you uncomment that by deleting the hashtag. Now, to save and exit, just do Control+O and press enter and Control X. I'm going to be clearing this, and now to generate the locales, we just do locale-gen. Now the locales basically tells you what language we're going to be creating a locale.conf. /etc locale.conf lang is equal to what locale you chose. For me, it's English underscore CA for Canada .utf-8, and we're going to save that. Alright, now we can also set the console layout. You can set it to the US layout or US keyboard layout, etc, etc. I will not be doing that. Now we have network configuration. This basically just sets your what name your device is going to be on, like a Wi-Fi network, for example, nano/etsy/hostname. I'm going to be doing this. I will be putting I use Arch, by the way, to show people I use Arch, by the way. What the? Here we go. We should enable network manager. Since Arch Linux uses systemd, we will be doing systemd command. So systemctl enable network manager. Make sure you have the capitalization correct as shown here. Click enter, and now Wi-Fi is enabled. And now if you reboot into the installation, make sure you use network manager TUI to actually connect to your. Then we have to generate an init RAM file system. You can also use DragHut too. I use DragHut on my Gen 2 system, so yeah. We're going to generate the init RAM file system using make init cpio-p. Press enter, and there we go. Now we're going to be setting the root password. Type in your password. There we go. Make sure you type passwd, says the password for root. Now we are going to be installing grub. Now this part, since I am using an EFI/UEFI system / virtual machine, I'm not using legacy BIOS. If you don't know what that is, just search it up. For people who are on EFI/UEFI, aka literally any other computer that's like recently made, just type in this command: grub-install-target is equal to x86_64-EFI. EFI-directory is equal to our ESP, or EFI system partition, which is boot. There we go. Now we're going to do --bootloader-id is equal to grub. Oh, spelled that wrong. And just press enter. And there we go. No error reported. Now all we have to do is just generate the grub config file, and we are pretty much good to go and reset. To generate the config, so grub, aka our bootloader, knows what to do. Make sure you type in grub-make config-o/boot/grub/grub.cfg. Press enter. There we go. Make sure it finds a Linux and init RAM disk image. We can exit from chroot, and now we want to unmount all of the partitions. I'll be doing umount-r/mnt to unmount every other partition. And now we can just safely reboot. And now all you have to do is log in. So I will be logging in as root. You can also make your own users. Just read the Arch wiki for that. There we go. Logged in as root. Also do fast fetch to see that you are installed on Arch. Now you can tell people that you use Arch, by the way. And also make sure you do network manager TUI or NMTUI, and go here, activate a connection to connect to your Wi-Fi network. And that's pretty much it to installing Arch. If you like this, share it with other people, and yeah, make sure you tell people you use Arch, by the way. Anyways, if you like this video, go ahead and like and sub or something, and I might see you later if I even upload again. Well, see ya.